Hello there, it's Susie Walker here from Psychologies Magazine, and I am delighted today to be joined by James Wilson, aka the Sleep Geek. I'm so delighted to have join us because I know that so many psychologies readers, we struggle a lot with sleep and with sleep problems, whether it's our age or it's just our annoying partner who's snoring too much, or there's so many problems that seem to kind of wreck our sleep time. But the issue is, I think, the connection between sleep and mental health is massive. So, I know that when we have good sleep, we have good mental health. Well, not all the time. So I just wanted to ask you and welcome you and say hello and say, what can we do to sleep better, James?
So hello, and it's. I think we'll touch on annoying partners at some time in the next half an hour, definitely. So I think my work is I'm always trying to help people understand their sleep better. I think we don't know a lot about sleep. So a good example is, for example, like one of the good examples is people say to me, I want to sleep through the night. But yet nobody actually sleeps through the night. We all wake up 3 to 6 times a night. Good sleepers wake up and turn over. Poor sleepers wake up and start thinking about kids, relationships, work, that embarrassing thing we did 5 years ago. So I think just even the basics of sleep we don't understand. So I think the starting point is actually having some understanding of sleep, and that it's not something. I think one of the big sort of myths we have around sleep is that we can force it. So I need to be asleep by 10:30, and then we lay there desperately trying to get to sleep, and it's hard. We can't force sleep. It's not nutrition. It's not exercise. It's something that we have to get our body in the right condition, and that condition is a drop in heart rate and a drop in core temperature. So that's what we should be doing in the hour before bed. Focusing on doing these things.
So everyone has the hour before bed. We should be doing what?
So we should be doing things that relax us, drop our heart rate. And we should be doing things that drop our core temperature. So try and help us be a little bit cooler. And that, so I can't tell you what relaxes you, but I can tell you that's what you should be trying to do. So for example, during sort of COVID times, a lot of us are watching the news, the 10 o'clock news just before bed. Well, that is just reinforcing something that's quite worrying. It raises our stress levels, and there is no real, we have no conclusion at the moment. So all we're doing is putting our body in a state that actually makes sleep harder to achieve. So it's harder to get to sleep, and also, probably most importantly, harder to sustain.
Yeah.
So I think.
No, absolutely. So I think there's that pre-bedtime routine, but you also talked about when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep. I'm an absolutely brilliant sleeper. You know, I really am. So I feel like I always say it's my superpower, being able to sleep. But I know so many of my friends who really struggle with especially this, that they can get to sleep, but then they wake up again. So what should we do when we wake up and have that mind whirring thing?
So I think it's that this is the problem I deal with most. I think we have this idea that it's not a sleep problem because we can get to sleep fine. And the reason we can get to sleep fine is that sleep's something that we really need, our bodies really need. So we're sleep deprived. We're not sleeping well. So falling asleep is quite easy. It's sustaining that sleep. So actually getting that wind down right before bed is important, even if you're waking in the night. Then we're looking at what may be triggering the awakening. Because we all wake up 3 to 6 times a night. Like I said, we come out of our sleep cycle. We check to make sure we're safe, and then we drop back into it. If we have, for example, watched something scary before bed, that might contribute to it. If we are too warm, which is quite a common one, that might contribute to it. If we have drunk caffeine too late in the day for us, that might contribute to it. If we've drank alcohol or too much alcohol before bed, that might contribute. So we look at the triggers. Can we minimize the triggers? But also, then what do we do to react to it? What a lot of us will do is we'll lay in bed tossing and turning, and then just before our alarm's about to go off, we fall asleep. And that's because your body relaxes at that point. It thinks, I'm fine. I'm going to wait. And you sort of have half an hour sleep. That's awful. So the best piece of advice I can give is if you're in bed for more than 20, 30 minutes and you're not asleep, you need to start again. Because what happens then, your body starts to get more and more stressed. Those cortisol levels rise, those adrenaline levels rise. That stops us relaxing, creating melatonin, and therefore it's harder to get back to sleep. So what I would say is what I find the best way to relax is to listen to something. So listen to a spoken word book, listen to a podcast, listen to meditation apps like Headspace and Calm. They have some group guided meditations or some great sleep stories on there. YouTube, loads of free content, music of less than 60 beats a minute, and let your mind wander. Let your mind wander. Stop beating yourself up about being a poor sleeper, because what we do as poor sleepers, we sit there going, I'm going to be awful tomorrow. I'm going to be awful. But you're not, because you've not been awful. You will always get through tomorrow. Poor sleepers always get through tomorrow. What we tell ourselves is that we won't. And actually, when I work with people, I'm looking at them to change their mindset from I'll be awful tomorrow to I might be a poor sleeper, but I am brilliant at being tired. And that's a real big change in sort of the way you view your poor sleep.
That's good.
I think it's quite important. That mindset is important. And then they start listening to something. Now, if you sleep alone or you sleep next to your partner and they don't annoy you, then do it in the bedroom. If your partner annoys you, if they're there and you're thinking, I'm going to kill you.
Or if you're snore, I think I snore. Yeah.
So I think it's go into the room, go in the living room, don't turn the lights on, and just listen to something. Let that sleepiness come again. I think one of the problems we do is when we're poor sleepers, and your friends may do this, is that we'll go and do stuff that's daytime stuff. We'll have a cup of tea. We will go and do some work. We'll go and watch something on the TV. And all that says to our body is, I want to be awake now because there's something to do. So what your body will then do is it's in a behavioural routine. You woke up at 3 minutes past 3 last night. We're going to wake up at 3 minutes past 3 tonight because you want to watch that box set. So you kind of get into this routine. So I think it's about breaking that routine, breaking your mindset and how we're viewing sleep, and then using the 20-minute, 30-minute rule. And it won't happen overnight. Fuse a pun, but do it for 3 to 5 days. Generally, you start to get into that behavioural routine. So I do this job because I'm a poor sleeper. I'm not going to sit here and tell the viewers that I've cured my sleep problem, because sleep problems can't be cured. You understand them and learn how to deal with them better. So this is my problem, and I do this, and now I can actually think about putting my headphones in, and I fall asleep. So I think it's just breaking that behavioural pattern and then creating an environment that allows your mind to wander, and eventually you relax and you fall asleep. The times you don't, then you just accept it. You get through the day, and remember, when you've had a bad night's sleep, that's actually the best thing for a good night's sleep tonight, because sleep is an instinct. We need sleep, so your body wants that sleep. If you can just make sure you relax properly the night after a poor night, your body might not give you more sleep, but it will more than likely give you better quality sleep. So try not to worry too much about it. The more we worry about sleep, the harder it gets. The more we take the stress out, the easier it gets.
Yeah. I mean, what's your advice about, we're talking about annoying partners. So if you have, and again, I hear this a lot, that, your partner snores, or maybe you snore, or they're too hot, or I'm a great fan of sleeping apart. You can have your intimacy time or whatever it is that you need, but then, to go and literally go and sleep apart. And that kind of really works for me. But then other people say, oh my God, that's a terrible idea, and da da da. What's your advice on that?
It is for both. It's creating something for both partners that work. I think often in a relationship, you can get a sleep dictator who dictates what's happening, what time we're going to bed, what temperature the room is, what we're doing before bed. And that's quite damaging to the person who's been dictated to. So on that, if you're that dictator, stop it. If you live with that dictator, tell them from me to stop it. Use me as an excuse. That's what I would say. I think on things like snoring, it's first of all, it's making sure it's not quite a common sleep disorder called sleep apnea. So snoring sounds more like sleep apnea would sound more like a choking sound.
Yeah. Okay.
And if that is preceded by like it's seeming like your partner's stopping breathing, then I would, they need to go and talk to someone about it. There's quite a strong treatment pathway in the NHS. There's private treatments. If you got private medical insurance, generally that will pay for it. But it's a very, it's underdiagnosed condition, and because it sounds like snoring, we laugh about it, and it is life limiting. It contributes things like COPD, stroke, heart disease. So if that's happening with snoring, look at that. Look at if it's snoring more than sleep apnea, look at things like positional change. So people are more likely to sleep on their back. So if your partner snores, maybe getting them to hug a pillow and put a square pillow between the legs. So maybe like a pillow you have in the living room, that between your legs, hugging a pillow, and that will try and keep them on their side. The anti-inflammatories can work because often we snore worse when we've been drinking, we've had alcohol, or when we've had spicy food.
Oh, okay.
So something like So something like olive oil can help. And there is a sense of sort of satisfaction to the partner who's not been drinking, getting their partner to drink a tablespoonful of olive oil before bed when they've had a skinful. I think there is a satisfaction to that. So there's also a benefit there. So I think there's that. I think with temperature, one thing we do in this country that's quite interesting is that we share a duvet. And those who've travelled in Europe, we have separate duvets in Europe. And I think that means you can have your own sleep environment. So when I'm working with women who are living with the menopause, that's one of the things we talk about, having a separate duvet to your partner, because you've got separate temperature needs. And actually their body heat is coming into your side of the bed. And that can make things really, really difficult. So I think having separate duvets, one person might have a 13.5 tog duvet, one person might have like a bamboo sheet. And so you create an environment that works for you. Think about with temperature again, think about your mattress. Foam mattresses can make you very hot. If you're a hot sleeper, looking at things like springs and natural fillings. And like you said about sleeping separately or sleeping together, I think it's about what works for both people. So I've met people who, when I've done sort of one of my sessions, they have decided to sleep apart because one person maybe snores, one person's a hot sleeper. It's better for them. And I once got an email from someone who actually said, we actually like each other now. We started sleeping separately and we've started to like each other. And actually it contributes to having a happy, it talks about sort of the connection to mental health. Sleeping well contributes to a happier relationship. If you are really annoyed by the person you sleep next to, it's harder to sleep, and it's not good for your relationship generally.
Yeah. I mean, what is from an expert point of view, what is the connection between mental health and sleep? Is there a kind of a sliding scale or anything? Is there a scale of if you're getting, because often I think if you've got really, really bad sleep, it can cause anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And it's almost when to reach out for help. You know what I mean? It's like, I know you said earlier, don't worry, and part of the thing, but I think there's a point where when your sleep gets so bad that you do need to reach out for some professional help.
So I would say, so the function sleep has in terms of our mental health is in the later stages of sleep, we have a stage of sleep called REM sleep. And during REM sleep, our brain works through the emotional issues of the day. So it's like a colleague of mine who's a psychologist describes it as an overnight counselling session. That is what's happening during REM sleep. When we get short sleep, or not enough, or quantity-wise, we're not getting enough, it's actually that REM sleep that often suffers. So I think we all know what it feels like not to have slept well. You are ready to blow. You want someone to come at you. I'm going to lose my temper. Colleague, kids, random strangers, whoever it is. And I think that is it's recognizing that there's that connection between poor sleep and our emotional health. But then the thing with sleep is when we try and judge it on quantity, how much sleep have I had? You've also got to bear in mind the quality of that sleep. So there isn't a magic number for everybody. We are all different. What I would say in terms of you're trying to judge, have I had a good enough quality sleep for enough time, is how do you feel at 10, 11 in the morning? If you feel alert, if you feel productive, you've probably had enough sleep. If you don't, you probably need some more. We're designed to feel, you don't jump out of bed singing Morning Is Broken. Well, not everyone does. I'm one of those annoying people who does, and in my house, that's not popular, but not everyone does. And I think we sort of judge our sleep within the 10 minutes after we've woken, and that's the wrong time to judge it. Actually, judge it about 10, 11 in the morning, and start seeing sleep as a feeling rather than a number. There isn't a magic number in terms of sleep, but generally, we would say the research shows if you're getting somewhere between probably 5.5 hours and 9 hours sleep, you might be getting enough sleep for you, but everyone is different. From a physical point of view, in the training I did, they talked about 5.5 hours sleep being 80% of your sleep need. But that's more from a physical point of view. Emotionally, you might need a little bit more. But that quality is incredibly important. So if you have poor quality sleep, so for example, alcohol gives us very poor quality sleep. So you might have 10 hours after having a bottle of wine, but that's not going to give you the quality of sleep that you need to get through the next day. So I think it's all individual. And the more we can understand what good sleep feels like to us, the more we can see those warning signs that actually I've not had enough sleep and it's starting to affect my mental health.
Yeah. I mean, I think in psychology, it's very much that thing around being self-aware. And I think, we would always say, keep a diary, keep a note. And the more, as you say, the more information, the more informed you are, about whether it's your sleeping patterns or your eating patterns, or then you can start observing, saying, okay, well, what do I notice? I mean, and then maybe see if there are any patterns involved in whether it's alcohol or food or an argument or whatever it is that stops you from sleeping.
And with that, one of the things I use, so the problem with tracking sleep is that we can't force it. So if you use like a tracker, like a watch or a ring, the problem with that is that it's telling you something you already know. You know you're a poor sleeper. You don't need a what. You can feel it. You don't need that. And you wake up with a very negative message. So what I would use is smiley faces. Just in a diary or somewhere, write a smiley face. I felt good about my sleep today. I felt it's all right. No, I feel pretty poor about it. So we're not putting that. No, one of the problems with some of the treatments we use for sleep, for like chronic insomnia, is we get people to write sleep diaries, and all they're doing is reviewing everything that they're doing wrong and how bad they are and what an awful human being they are. Because why can't you sleep? And I think that it's with sleep, it's very light touch. I find if the less people kind of obsess over it, because poor sleepers, and people watching now will have done it. They've tried everything. Chamomile tea, they've tried aromatherapy, they've tried a new pillow, a duvet, a mattress. They've tried weird and wonderful things that friends have recommended. And often it's actually stop trying, start accepting and start trying to change your behaviors and your mindset, rather than looking for some magic solution that's going to solve all your ills.
And I love what you've just said. I love the idea of when you focus on the positive rather than the negative. So the smiley face is a really thing. It's like, what went well in my sleep tonight? I slept really well from 12 till 2, and I really enjoyed that audible story at 3, and I woke up at 7 feeling refreshed. I mean, I love that idea. I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And before you go, because I know I haven't got you for much longer, but I just wanted to talk about dreaming. I know that COVID, we've all been dreaming like mad, and I mean, honestly, my WhatsApp groups have been full of, oh my God, I've had the weirdest dream. What is that all about? And why is dreaming a good thing in terms of sleep or a bad thing?
So I'm loving it at the moment because everyone sends me their vivid dreams, and there's been some very, very strange ones. I think so. As I talked about, REM sleep is where we have that overnight counselling session. So what's happening is because, and we saw this around September the 11th as well, when there's like a really big event that there's no end to. Our brains are trying to work out what's happening, trying to reassure us, trying to we need to remember that emotion, get rid of that emotion, and it's doing it. It's like we said, this overnight counselling session. Whilst doing that, and we dream all the time. We dream all the way through the night. We more like dreaming REM sleep, but you do also dream in the slow wave sleep, the stage of sleep. We just don't remember them because you're in a very, very deep sleep. But during REM sleep, we're dreaming. The reason we remember these dreams is that we're probably waking quite close to the dream happening. Because the dream's that strange, we're waking up, and then you can remember it. Where it went normally, if you sort of like if you're dreaming, but you're maybe going through your sleep cycle in a more sort of a more typical way, you don't remember your dreams. So that's why we're remembering them more. That's why they're waking us up, because they are like, I have some brilliant ones. I think my favourite is the person who dreamt that they were getting married, and when they got to the end of the aisle, it was their ex. And they had to go through with it, and it was this sort of like, this nightmare of having to marry their ex. So I think there's been some, but it makes sense. So I think the message is, don't worry too much about it. Think about what you're watching before bed, because we find that when people are watching stuff that's like a box set. So, for example, I was watching White Lines on Netflix for a week before bed, because again, like many experts, do what I say, not what I do. I was making that mistake, and I dreamt a lot about murdering people, a lot of murder in my dreams. So I realised what it was, and watch something funny before bed. So I think think about what you're watching. Something funny, that's great. Something trashy makes you feel better about yourself. Something repetitive. You know what's going to happen. Not a box set, not the news, not a horror film, not something. The second most watched documentary on Netflix was called Pandemic. About a month ago. That's not a good thing to watch before bed. Not at all.
Aren't we funny creatures as human beings?
We are.
We're in the middle of a global pandemic. What we're going to watch is a film about a global pandemic. It's so funny. James, this is really fun. Thank you very much. I think you've given some really good information there around how to sleep better, and also not to worry as much. I think that is, I'm taking away that as my kind of top tip, is I think the anxiety that comes with not sleeping. And to be able to kind of minimize that and praise yourself for what you are doing well. I think that really works. James is available at sleepgeek.com or .co.uk?
It's the sleepgeek.co.uk, and I'm the Sleep Geek on all major social media channels.
Yeah, fantastic. So you can catch up with James there and find out all about what he can do for you and for companies. You work with big groups, don't you, as well, and charities, all sorts of right across the board. So do check him out at the sleepgeek.co.uk.
Thank you very much. Sleep well.
Thank you. Yeah, sleep well.
Thank you.
I will. Good night.